We needed this exchange. It happened in public. It happened and it took too long, and I'm sorry.
Pedro Espada says he's sorry, but is it too little too late? With us now, Eyewitness News political reporter Dave Evans, who's been trekking back and forth to Albany to cover all the drama up there, and also Errol Lewis with the Daily News and host of WWRL Radio Morning Show. Errol, Dave,
good morning.
Good to have you both with us.
Morning.
I have to ask, did either of you see this coming? The whole Pedro Espada flipping back?
It had been talked about, rumored about for a couple of days before. It was either he was going to get some Democrats to flip over to the Republicans, or there was some talk that he could flip back to the Democrats.
And there were broad clues, like other senators having lunch with him in public where photographers could take pictures of them. So clearly they were reaching out to him. There were, of course, some other senators who were outraged at the very thought of trying to bring him back into the fold. Those outraged senators who were not standing at the podium in the shot that you just showed, they are among the losers in this particular fight.
And Republicans make a huge mistake in trusting him?
I think they probably were mistaken by placing their trust in him. But they did almost get what they wanted. In fact, in the first instance, they did get what they wanted. Much of this was about, although it wasn't really reported, much of this was about stopping the Senate in its tracks, just as it was about to take up key pieces of legislation that certain business interests and former gubernatorial candidate Tom Golisano did not want to see acted on. They didn't want to see a tax increase. They didn't want to see the housing laws acted on, and they stopped it for a month. And that is a show of force.
Real winner in this, the one man who really got what he wanted, is Pedro Espada, right?
Yeah, he got a raise of about $40,000.
And a great title.
And a nice
and he's
little
one of the
title.
most powerful men in this state right now.
We don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but he has, if he were in the mold of past majority leaders, that would mean control of about a $100 million budget and about 1,600 employees, control of...
And the pork barrel handouts.
And control of the flow of legislation in Albany. So that is not insignificant. Now, it's not clear whether or not he's going to have
I think that's the big question.
Yeah.
You know, he might have the title, but, you know, there's also Sampson, who's the conference leader, and then also Malcolm Smith, who is the president pro tem. So it's, I think there's some...
the question, who's in charge?
Yeah.
And
I guess they'll all work together, but we'll see.
It's very telling. After they made this deal and they went in and stayed up overnight and passed over 100 pieces of legislation, it was not the majority leader, Pedro Espada, running the floor, which is normally the case in the Senate. So that tells you a little bit already that it's not going to necessarily be business as it has been done in the past.
Interesting. What about Dean Skelos? Does he survive? Does his leadership position survive after all of this?
Well, I think he's the minority leader, and he survives as the Republican leader, but I think it may be
But does he pay a price for this? Because he was the one who kind of helped bring Espada over to the Republicans.
My guess would be, and I haven't talked to any Republican senators lately, but my guess would be that it was an audacious move that ultimately did not succeed. But do you reward that or do you punish that? You know, does it turn on whether or not it actually succeeded? Or do you give the guy some credit for really thinking pretty far outside the box?
And you know, the thing I'm intrigued with, you know, some of those comments, those email comments that voters have sent in, you know, everyone says a pox on everyone, you know, on both houses. And really, but what it comes down to, what we see again and again in elections is people will say, yes, a pox on all of them, I won't vote for any of them.
Except for my guy.
But not my guy,
Yeah.
not my guy. Or you ask someone, who's your senator? And they'll say, Chuck Schumer, and I'll say, no, not the federal, you know, not the U.S. senator, your state senator. They have no idea. And they probably won't know when election time comes around next year.
There's also a fair amount of leftover pork that's been delivered by the Republicans during their time in the majority. They put their names on a lot of library improvements, public pools, all kinds of different programs. And if they remind the voters of that, it's possible that they'll reward them one more time.
But they might forget. Let me, very quickly before we run out of time, Richard Ravitch, Lieutenant Governor position. Governor making a smart move here or a not so good move here?
I think we'll find out what the courts, you know, rule over the next couple of weeks. If they go ahead and approve this, he'll look as if he really was tough and took the high road. But if he doesn't, it's going to be one more loss for this governor, and I think he's had such a string of bad news, it may be bad for him.
What do you think,
you know, the timing of it, I think, did work out for him. I think he can argue that it was his pressure, calling them into session every day, appointing a lieutenant governor to try and break the deadlock, even if it doesn't pan out legally, that helped break the deadlock. I think the governor gets credit for that.
Okay. Gentlemen? Always good to hear from you. Thanks for being with us. And that's going to do it for this edition of Up Close. I want to thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a good one.